All right, we're talking about why Elon Musk is going to invest in Next. No, just kidding. We're not doing that, but you're in the green room. This is Disrupt TV. I've got our awesome producer, Elle, my awesome co-host, co-founder, Vala Afshar. But more importantly, we're going to do our guest in reverse order as you're in the green room. For those following on Twitter, LinkedIn Live, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Vimeo, and Periscope, of course. We're going to get you a chance to get up there while we're talking. So, Deb, where are you calling from? How cold is it? And what are you talking about today?
I'm calling from Oberlin. It's 20-some degrees, so it's balmy. And I'm going to talk about some clients and my cool students.
All right, very, very cool. All right, Wilson, where are you calling from? What's going on?
I'm calling from California Bay Area. I live in the South Bay. Today, I'm going to talk about how AI has changed in last year and AI predictions in 2021.
All right, really, really cool. I'm here too in the South Bay. Paul, what's going on? Where are you and how cold is it?
Well, I'm looking out my window here. I'm in New Jersey and it's snowing at about 25 degrees and it's just been this onslaught for a while here. So yeah, and I'll talk about what we see happening in technology, the vision we just came out with, and whatever else you guys want to ask me.
What a great launch. All right, cool. Let's do the honors. Elle, all yours, and do the countdown.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Disrupt TV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at Disrupt TV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions live using hashtag Disrupt TV, and we'll do our best to answer them. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business. And breaking news, he's got a new book coming out this year, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. He's a regular television, business, and technology news contributor on Bloomberg, Yahoo Finance, and Fox Business. He's a global sought-after keynote speaker. And in my opinion, one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to Disrupt TV.
Always humbled by the best introductions in the business. I'm here with Vala Afshar, as everybody knows. He's a person that everyone should follow. Inspirational thoughts, inspirational tweets. You're seeing it all across the board. Leaders, CMOs, CEOs, CXOs, CIOs, and Chief Digital Officers are all following him, and world leaders, as I noticed on Twitter. So anyways, it's not about me. It's not about Vala. It's about our awesome guest. And today we're going to talk to a very, very awesome guest. And we're also going to quickly thank our sponsors, Robots and Pencils. And of course, we'll jump in and talk about our awesome tech vision conversation. So what's next? Who do we have?
Ray, one of our favorite guests of all time in the 200 plus shows we've had. Paul Daugherty is the Accenture Group Chief Executive Technology and Chief Technology Officer. Paul oversees all aspects of developing and delivering Accenture's technology capabilities, bringing innovation, intelligence, and deep industry experience together with leading technologies from an ecosystem of partners to help clients reinvent their business. He's helping us at Salesforce do that today. As Chief Technology Officer, Paul is responsible for driving innovation through R&D activities in Accenture's labs and leveraging emerging technologies to bring the newest innovations to clients globally. Paul is also responsible for managing Accenture's alliances, partnerships, and senior level relationships with leading and emerging technology companies. And he leads Accenture's Global CIO Council and annual CIO Innovation Forum. He's the member of the Accenture Global Management Committee. He's the author of Human Plus Machine, Reimagining Work in the Age of AI, one of my highest recommended books in the concept of future of work and impact of AI. He's a great follow on Twitter, actively engaging daily with thousands of stakeholders at PAULDAUGH. Welcome back, Paul, to Disrupt TV.
Yeah, it's great to be here. A great introduction, Vala. That was a lot that you got in there, and it's great to be with you guys.
I had to cut your bio short, Paul, because we only have 20 minutes, and you do so much. So, thank you again.
I know. I think we did a disservice in that short bio, actually.
I know.
That was fantastic.
No, but hey, Paul, thank you so much. I mean, you just came off a broadcast of your Tech Vision 2021, and inside this report, you interviewed over 6,000 people, and it was interesting to hear those findings. I don't want to give them away, but the pandemic definitely played a factor, along with other global events from last year. How did this all shape your findings year over year as you're comparing these trends, and then more importantly, what are those new realities?
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be looking at this. We do our vision every year, as you guys know, and the context of what's happening around us is one of the most interesting things to look at when you look at our technology vision. And you know, and you think about the past year, and it's like, wow, like where do you start in terms of
Oh
some
my
of our
God, yeah.
context? You know, we had Brexit. You know, a year ago, we thought that was a big deal, and then we had Australian wildfires, climate change. We had the COVID happened, like the big bang of COVID hitting and really disrupting things at an unprecedented scale. We had political turmoil and chasms. We had a lot of unrest around systemic social inequality and racism. You just go on, and it was an amazing year. And I think one of the things we're trying to highlight in our vision this year is we talk about a moment of truth. And it's really a moment of truth in terms of how leaders deal with the future. And the observation we're making in the vision is that what happened in the past year is that COVID, along with some of these other events, but primarily COVID, hit a giant fast forward button and propelled us into the future. We think we've incurred about a decade of change in this year, and now going into a second year that we're going through. And the future is here. Like, we just haven't caught up to it and realized it yet. And I think that's the kind of mindset you need to have, what we're trying to talk about in the vision this year.
I mean, that compressed, accelerated digital transformation is real. I mean, it's in front of us. So
it's real, and I don't think we've fully digested it yet. I think it's impossible to fully digest. There'll be books written about this, but there's 4 new realities that we talk about in the vision, and we can dive into any one of these. But there's a new reality of human experience that you have to understand if you're doing anything in business or with technology. 8 billion people around the world instantaneously change behavior. Never before happened in the history of human civilization. Right after COVID hit, before COVID hit, less than 40% of Americans in the U.S. were using online grocery shopping. Within less than 2 months, 80% were using online grocery shopping. Telemedicine visits up 350 times, and all of us communicating like this, including not just at work, which is you can get used to, but our my in-laws, our relatives, our kids at school, and the massive change to our human experience is profound. And then a new reality of technology, where we talk about every business being a technology business. A new reality around work that we talk about, the vision of how work will change, and the new reality that surprises some people that we're talking about in a technology vision around sustainability, and why now is the time where technology and sustainability come together in a different way in terms of how you direct your business.
Yeah, for those of you listening to Paul, a couple of days ago in a tweet stream listed the 4 realities, provided details and links to the report. So again, a great follow on Twitter, because everything he's talking about, he's sharing on social, including what he tweeted a couple of days ago, which said COVID is compressing 10 years of change into just 1 or 2 years, fast forwarding to a future defined by new realities. Result, the future is here. And then a thought-provoking question you ended with, but are you ready? Yeah. And you talk about in the report 3 key imperatives for change agents and leaders. Can you talk about what is leadership? What are some of the lessons you learned? I mean, you're leading about 300,000 people at Accenture, but then you're also working with some of the biggest companies in the world. What are some lessons you learned in the last 1 year as a result of the economic pandemic, climate, and social-political equality crises that we all faced, in 2020?
Yeah, I think the "Are you ready" point, just to highlight that there's one statistic that I think I mentioned on Twitter, but also we talk about in the vision, which is before COVID, there was already a digital achievement gap. But this is important, as I'll get back to your question on leaders in a second. Sure. But before COVID, there was a digital achievement gap where the top organizations who were doing well at digital and were mastering technology in the right way were outperforming the rest by 2x, by a factor of 2x before COVID. We redid that research recently, and a year into COVID, what changed? That performance gap for the digital leaders increased to 5x. So the digital achievement gap widened dramatically. Wow. And it's largely, and it's intuitive, right? It's what we anecdotally talk about, which are those that had the basic capabilities in curbside pickup, say, were able to accelerate faster and do better. So those that had the digital foundation widen their gap. The rest are struggling, to keep up and are trying to leapfrog. So when you talk about what is required of leaders in this environment, I really do think it's the era where every business is a technology business. That's what this is highlighting. Technology was the lifeline. If not for the technology, if this was 5 years ago, even. And certainly if it was 10 years ago, this would have been devastating to the economy, to people, to well-being. And it was bad. It was catastrophic, but it would have been far worse without the lifeline that technology gave us. So back to what leaders need to do. Every leader needs to be a technology leader. I'm having a lot of discussions with CEOs, with boards about specifics around technology, because that's what matters, not just in dealing with COVID, but to setting your strategy now going forward. The change, this Masters of Change is in the title of our vision. Masters of Change at a Moment of Truth is a point, because technology in many ways was viewed by leaders as a way to optimize their business. Technology going forward is the platform for changing your business continually, and leaders need to master that change mindset. And then I think we're in an era where humanity is really important, and I think leaders need to master, and think about humanity at the core. It's the way you think about your workers, your workforce, your colleagues, staying in touch in different ways in this crazy environment that we're in right now. And it's about thinking about humanity in terms of how are the solutions you're putting in place improving the state of not just your business, but your customers, the community that you and your customers live in, citizens, et cetera. And I think those are some of the leadership basics that we're talking about in the vision, and that really matter, at this moment of truth that we're in right now.
And I love the fact that you are part of a 500,000 plus employee company, and you're actually a role model when it comes to sustainability, climate, servant leadership. So what it reminds, what our audience should take away from that is, don't use excuse in terms of, oh, my company's too big. We can't make pivots. We can't make decisions. If Accenture, is a myth buster when it comes to like size of company, inhibiting you for being a tech company and making a difference. So I just want to applaud you, because I think in so many conversations with my clients, your company's name comes up as the North Star for others to follow. So it's great.
Well, thank you. We try to do what we think is the right thing. And I think the bigger the company, the bigger your impact, the more obligation I believe you have. And I think it's a particular obligation for technology companies. And as I said, we're all becoming technology companies. Every company is. But we've been kind of a technology company in the technology business. And if I think of any of the technology companies, whether they be technology providers or platform companies or what have you, there's an extra added obligation in terms of thinking about these issues, not just sustainability, but all these issues, the humanity and things I'm talking about, because these are the platforms that are defining the future. And if you get them wrong, it's going to have bad consequences. We're seeing some of the impacts of that in terms of the way some of the tech is impacting people today. And there's an obligation I think we have to make sure that the technology is used in the right way, and that we accrue the proper benefits for it. We talk about this idea at Accenture of 360-degree value, meaning that when we think about anything we do internally or any project we do for a client, we think about the 360-degree value is in terms of what's the financial benefit, but also what's the benefit to the people, what's the benefit to the workforce, what's the impact on environment and SDGs and other things. And I think that idea of 360-degree value is something that I think in the future is critical, and today it is critical to set the course for the future.
Absolutely.
No, this makes a lot of sense. And you guys typically list like big themes in there. One of the themes that I'd love to go deeper in on was really about that whole notion from me to we, because it hits on societal, economic, technology, and even in some cases political aspects of what is changing around how we look at that technology and how we should be thinking about strategy. So let's start there.
Yeah, no, from me to we, there's five technology trends that are at the core of our vision. And our trends always sound a little bit different than other trend reports, because I read them all, and a lot of them start with, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, data, virtual reality. I read all those and I like them, but they don't necessarily help you make decisions. So our trends always sound different because we're trying to project the business, outcomes and actions that you should strive for. So from me to we, is talking about, from me to we, it's talking about solutions based on an ecosystem, multi-party solutions, which is the emerging word to describe distributed ledger and blockchain and related applications. That's what from me to we is about. And I believe as we look to the problems we need to solve, that businesses are solving in the future, as we look to COVID response, sustainability, and big problems in our business, they're multi-party solutions. Think about sustainability solutions we're working with a number of companies on called around circular supply chain, where you can connect a farmer, the farmer producing the coffee beans in a small farm in a certain country with the person drinking that in a retail store in the US and seamlessly have transparency and traceability back from the cup the consumer purchased to the coffee bean, and be able to implement concepts like, I want to reward that farmer for sustainable production, so that as a consumer, I can give them a tip. It's the tip of the farmer idea you may have heard of. How do you build a solution like that that's touching every distributor, supply chain, in the middle? You need a different type of solution. That's where multi-party systems come in, and that type of solution is built on distributed technology, distributed ledger technology, and that exists today. And so you can create incentives and rewards around sustainable production. You can track the health. That same process is used to track the organic chicken and to make sure that it's not contaminated and such, and you can verify the efficacy of it throughout the supply chain. Those are, so those types of technologies have a real purpose in the way you think about the, constructing the world going forward. So lots of other examples, Singapore with their digital health passport that they used for the COVID response based on, blockchain and similar technologies. So that's what we're talking about in that trend. And I think the time has come. We've been doing blockchain and distributed ledger, stuff for a while. It's not about cryptocurrency. It's although that's its own thing. This is about building.
Not a hot topic at all. Not.
Yeah. Bitcoin hit a $1 trillion market cap today. So it's kind of super hot now. That was one of the five trends. Stack strategically, architecting a better future was the first trend. Mirrored world, the power of massive intelligent digital twins, and how these digital twins are now like partner ecosystems, not just digital twin within the company borders. Technology, democratization of technology from citizen development, but the fact that if every company is a technology company, every employee needs to have a certain level of technical savviness. And then anywhere and everywhere. So I would argue in 2007, this launched the bring your own device revolution, but now we're talking about bring your own environment, which is the anywhere, everywhere trend. The one that resonated with me was actually the first one. I don't know if they're prioritized in any way, but if you're a tech company, then your tech stack really matters in terms of positioning yourself for success. So I'm interested to learn a little bit about that, and then any other insights you want to share across the all five trends.
Well, but I always think of the trend, that the five trends in the vision, as like my children. I can't have a favorite. I have to look. But we did put that one first for a reason. Let me just say that.
Okay. He stacked it in there.
Yeah. But stack strategically is talking about the fact that how you do tech matters. The stack that you build matters. Think about I use Starbucks as an example, not to overdo on coffee examples, but Starbucks, in COVID, they were able to quickly, enhance their mobile application, push out millions of new downloads, switch to 90% remote ordering with pickup in stores, enhance their microservices and APIs to do Uber Eats partnerships for delivery. Their stack allowed them to fare far better and to widen the gap versus others, as I talked about earlier. So that's an example of the stack really mattering. One of the things I talked about when I was announcing the vision is it's a little bit of a cute analogy, I guess, but I use a rock concert analogy and to say that you think about a rock concert, you had the roadies, that would chase around behind the band and be off stage and set things up and make sure it worked and make sure the sound worked. That was IT. IT has been the roadies on the journey we've been on. I think with COVID and the new environment we're moving into, technology is the rock star on the stage. It's what's defining the business. So we're moving from IT and technology being the roadies to central, to the center stage. I think that's really true. That's really true going forward, and that's what we're talking about in stack strategically. So it's how do you go from get to the cloud and then expand to the edge and leverage the edge in the right way. It's about the leverage of data and AI and how you build that into the stack in the right way and solve for it. How you build security in. There's a whole tweet thing going on, a whole thread of the tweets going on around security, which I completely agree with. We don't have security as a trend because we believe it's part of every trend.
Absolutely.
We're talking about it in every one of the five trends. And then the experience layer is something not enough companies I think are thinking about right now. The human experience is changing so dramatically. You have to have a dramatically different and more advanced notion of experience and how you deal with it with your customers. And those are the examples we're talking about in the vision. And one other example I'll give, just because I love it, then I'll stop on this trend, is I like Moderna as an example in how they accelerate their vaccine production. They have a drug design studio. That's their platform, drug design studio, powered by the cloud, with convolutional neural networks and AI models, rapidly iterating on data. so that they could pair the drug design studio up with their scientists and pioneer around messenger RNA, a new delivery, a new science around a new delivery technique, and get a vaccine out, faster than anybody. And BioNTech, that partnered with Pfizer, similar approach. The stack they used, the technology was strategic to them, winning in that marketplace.
Yeah. One quick follow-up. There's got to be a lot. I would love to be a fly in the wall watching this process, because the process of creating this annual Tech Vision report, because I looked at years of your predictions. Going back 6 years ago, you guys were talking about digital transformation as key imperative for business leaders. It is so accurate. I know hundreds of people are contributing to this. I know you're the principal author, so obviously a lot of pressure on your shoulders, but it's got to feel good to know that when you historically reference the Tech Vision reports, my goodness, you guys have been super accurate.
Yeah, we actually, yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I just want to learn a little bit about the process.
Yeah, and you guys stacked it as well. I mean, you did a 3-year layer too to show everybody, and that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, we actually
put it up.
We kind of traced it all the way back. Yeah, no. So yeah, if you show that's interesting. But the yeah, it's a great team, and I don't think you can call me the author. There's a whole team that puts this together. That's really fantastic. We have an external advisory board that we meet with multiple times a year and get a lot of ideas there. We get tremendous ideas by kind of crowdsourcing across the amazing people we have around the world, and we work on it. It's not a project we do; it's a year-round thing. So we've got the backlog and stuff we're thinking about. That'll be part of next year's vision already. So that's really the process. We do a lot of testing and trying out and debating as you'd expect. And kind of one of my tests is how controversial it is. We came out with 2013 was the first vision that I was involved with at Accenture. The vision's 21 years old. First one I did with the team was 2013, and we said every business is a digital business. That was the title, as you said, Vala. And I spent a lot of months after that defending it and getting yelled at by people saying that's just nonsense. I'm in such and such an industry. Digital's about telcos and wireless and stuff, or it's about media. And but it became true, and everybody, digital became the thing. And there's always something about our vision that people say that's kind of nonsense. That's not going to happen. And we have been wrong. We don't get everything right. But a lot of times the thing that people think is most wrong is the biggest insight. And that I think that's what's fun about the vision is kind of seeing this play out and kind of sticking by our convictions of what we think this is going to be. This isn't trying to make everybody happy with it. This is trying to really provide some guidance that's a little opinionated and prescriptive and different than what people can find somewhere else.
All the senior leaders in my company read your report religiously. It's a playbook that should sit on every CEO's desk. I'll end it with that. Sorry, it's not a question, it's a comment. Go ahead, Ray.
No, we're sadly out of time. 20 minutes is never enough with Paul. We are here with Paul Daugherty, Group Chief Executive Technology and Chief Technology Officer at Accenture. You can follow him on Twitter at Paul DAUGH, and you can catch the entire Accenture Tech Vision reports on the Accenture website. It's a very great read, and you can download the PDFs. There's even an executive summary version. And I don't know if are they doing the replays of the over event, or is that once it's done?
We're gonna post the link to the launch event that we did, which we normally don't do, but we're gonna do that this year. It was done with a super cool technology. We used some new technology to do it. So I think people will enjoy taking a look. If nothing else, to see it's the medium and the message. The medium is the
medium and the message. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for being on the show, and have a great Friday. So
thank you, Paul. Bye. Cheers. I'm serious. It's my favorite article to write every year, because the last 4 or 5 years I've covered the Tech Vision report. It's been my most popular ZDNet post. So there's so much goodness there. And speaking of goodness, speaking of emerging technologies, our next guest, Wilson Pang, is Chief Technology Officer at Appen. Wilson joined Appen in November 2018 as the CTO, Chief Technology Officer, and is responsible for the company's products and technology. Wilson has over 19 years experience in software engineering and data science. Prior to joining Appen, Wilson was Chief Data Officer at Ctrip in China, the second largest online travel agency company in the world, where he led data engineering and analyst data product management and science to improve the user experience and increase operational efficiency and grow the business. Before that, Wilson was Senior Director of Engineering at eBay, and prior to that, an architect at IBM, building technological solutions. You can follow his company on Twitter at APPEN Global, GLOBAL. Welcome, Wilson, to DisrupTV.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm really humbled for the introduction and super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, we're
Our
really
pleasure.
excited to have you here. You've got a lot of expertise in terms of what's happening in the world of AI and what's going on with data, training data, data sets, all those important things. But let's start with Appen. Like, what is Appen? How does it start, and what do you do there?
Yeah, Appen actually, we are industry-leading AI data company. We provide high-quality training to our customers to build AI. No matter what type of data do you need, text, image, video, audio, 3D data, whatever data you need, you can always rely on Appen to get you those data with high quality at large scale. To do that, we are combining the power of both human and also technology. So we have over 1 million crowd members from 130 countries speaking 180 languages. We also have a machine learning assisted annotation platform and a crowd management platform. I'm the CTO of Appen, and we're lucky to be able to work with a super talented group of product managers, engineers, data scientists to really evolve our product and also drive innovation in AI data field.
That's awesome. What a great privilege to be a technology leader at an AI company. Clearly, the founder of my company believes AI is electricity for business. And I recently wrote an article summarizing ARK Invest's thesis on deep learning, machine learning, and they believe the impact will be bigger than the internet. So clearly an critically important technology that will shape the future. And with our previous guest, with Paul Daugherty, we talked about the impact of COVID and how it shaped new business model innovation and modernization and technological stacks that are key. Can you talk about the impact of COVID-19 on AI, on the ML landscape, and what are some of the challenges that we're now facing in the AI industry, perhaps as a result of 2020?
Sure. Yeah, what a year of 2020.
Yeah.
We are all super happy it's ended now.
Yeah.
So every year we survey people from the AI industry and publish a state of AI report. And of course, last year we asked the impact of pandemic. The result actually is not surprising, and COVID-19 is not slowing AI investment. So from our research, our report, 2/3 of the company, they do not expect any negative impact to their AI initiative. And nearly half of the companies have actually accelerated their AI initiative, and 20% are doing so significantly. So you can see clearly people are betting on AI projects in this turbulent time, right? And we know COVID-19 changed every way we operated in the company. Now we all live in this Zoom, this virtual world. We not really meet people in person. Most of the stuff like moving from offline to online, that generates a lot more data than before. And more data, better AI. It's as simple as that, right? So AI is used as a powerful tool and build the momentum to really to help the digital transformation for almost every company. So that's the impact of a pandemic. Actually, that kind of helped to accelerate the AI. But meanwhile, we'll also look into the challenge. So the biggest challenge in the AI industry is still around data. So when we do the survey, we ask the company, there's about 3 out of 4 companies, they need to refresh their model at least every quarter. So it's never a one-time deal. You need to retrain your model. You need to refresh the data all the time. And about 40% of those companies who need to refresh their model, they feel like lack of data or the data management is a key challenge for them.
Okay.
It's a great point, right? I mean, think about the pandemic. How many people's models were completely thrown off, right? Just in general, like all the preset rules were completely like, oops, that's wrong. Oh, yeah, people really like commodities and toilet paper, and nobody really likes services and travel. And all these demand signals are completely off, and none of these economic indicators work. Like, what the heck is going on, right? And so you refresh data just at a quarter. I would imagine people would want to do this even more frequently than that. But is it because they don't have enough data or trainable data to do this?
There's multiple factors, right? It can be they don't have enough data, or it depends on the business. Like I know, like there's a use case. Let's say we are talking about ads recommendation or maybe product recommendation. Probably people using real-time data to retrain the model. If you are talking about like financial fraud detection, they are also using near real-time data. But there's other models probably didn't change that often, so they refresh like either monthly or maybe quarterly. But it's just a consistent theme. You need to refresh the model, retrain the model, and keep up all the change.
That's a great point.
I'm recapping what was just said, but it's amazing. You move to a decentralized, digital only, which means you actually have access to data. Part of the beauty of digitization is you get access to measurable data, versus like analog meetings or behaviors that can't be captured. And also, Ray, you talk about safety and accessibility being filters applied to your spend. So it wasn't just relevance. I'm a runner. I buy running shoes. Now I'm worried about, is it safe to buy it? Is my favorite store accessible? Can I go to a mall and buy it? So
Yep.
this is why McKinsey said 70% of people shifted brands during the pandemic, because if they didn't feel safe, if the product wasn't accessible, whether it was supply chain disruption or whatever it may be, folks, it was like rest in peace to loyalty, brand loyalty. And so being able to understand that, measure that, train models to help you anticipate shifting behavior so you can change your business model before you go out of business is so important. So my question, Wilson, what are some misconceptions for businesses when they're considering implementing AI and the steps they need to take to make sure that they initially have success with projects?
No, that's a great question, and that's actually happened quite often in many companies. There's a few. Number one is really people when they look into AI problem, people only think they only need a good data scientist to solve the problem.
Come on, if I only had a good data scientist.
Yeah, as long as you get a world-class data scientist, problem solved, right? And the reality is you really need
That's all you need. One PhD was good.
You need a cross-team, a cross-functional team to help you on that. You need people like a product manager, business owner who understand the business problem. You need data scientists for sure. You also need an engineer, QA ops person to help you to deploy the model. So it takes a team, not just data scientists. That's number one misconception. Second thing there is really people also think they need to spend a lot of time just tuning every parameter of the model, get the best performance. But the reality is people spend the majority of their time really get the data, clean up the data, make sure data has high quality, and make sure the data is available both for training and for inference. So that's the area people spend most of their time. So data actually decides the performance of the AI model, not just the model itself.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, right? I mean, you look at these models, the models are changing. What do you do about this notion of bias? People always worry about bias. And I'm like, but bias helps you make decisions, right? So what is this whole thing about bias? Why do people worry about it? What do we have to think through as part of, bias as a limiting bias as a universal need?
Really, that's a multi-million-dollar question.
Yeah, that's a deep question, Ray.
They're paying you billions to solve this. No, I'm just kidding.
Or maybe a billion-dollar question there. Really, eliminating bias in AI is hard, but we think it's super necessary, right? We saw a lot of example, like when you using some translation technology, they will just treat, let's say, when you talk about doctor, they always refer to a male. When we talk about nurse, they refer to a female. We see example like people using AI to do application filtering or review. The pass rate for a male is much higher than a pass rate for a female, right? So you can see it can cause harm to both the business and also to the overall human being. But fighting against bias in AI is hard. The good part is really from last few years, we are seeing more and more companies are really putting effort to really against this bias. So from a business level, organization, they need to pass just acknowledging or just worry about this problem, right? Many people think this is important, I'm worried about that, but no actual actions. We need business really to start to form a team, form initiatives to really fight against all those potential concerns under this responsible AI umbrella, right? It can be from really finding the bias from data all the way to how can you treat the people who help you collect training data fairly? So we need an effort from business side. And
So you're
from
talking about unwanted bias here, right? Like things that you didn't realize you were doing, unintentional, that kind of bias. But you still need some bias to make certain decisions, so long they're transparent and open, correct?
Yeah, I think that depends on how you really define the unintentional bias or intentional bias. I think most of the bias are causing harm, probably unintentional bias. I think
Yes.
most people are really have a good intention, but for some reason, like the output of the AI model cause some really unintended bias, and then create some harms.
And that's hard, right? Because testing for bias is also a skill set in itself. Like people don't know how to test for bias because sometimes you're testing and trying to find, patterns you wouldn't have known, right? Like a topological data analysis would suddenly say, hey, we actually got a very interesting situation over here, right? Or something like that, or applying a different kind of algorithmic technique.
Yeah, I think you hit a great point there. Like testing for bias is hard, and also it's a very it's area. There's still a lot of research going on now. We don't really have a mature answer, but it's really good to see there's quite a few different directions people are going after now. One is really besides measuring all those business performance of the model, people also start to measure the bias. It can be, let's say, now you have the precision recall for a machine learning model. You want to compare how the precision recall performs against different, let's say, gender, race, nationality, right? Those will tell you the insight. Maybe you have a bias there. And also there's most of those bias actually introduced by data. So getting the tools to understand if the data has enough representative for the different sample you need is super critical. And also you need to make sure you use a diversified crowd to help you create the data. If you only get the data from one certain type of people, very likely you will get bias there.
That's a great point, because we had the president of NASSCOM, the largest IT consortium in India, on our show last week, and she said that one of the growing trends is leadership's understanding and role in terms of responsible build and use of technology, and an element of that was championing inclusivity, because if algorithms are simply your beliefs codified, if you only have a particular segment of the population with common beliefs and it's not diverse enough, you're essentially codifying a micro element of what would be perhaps a more holistic view of the type of data you need, the type of models you need, and the type of outcomes you need, hopefully not drifting from your brand promise. So inclusivity, and also I think, in my opinion, designing for making sure you have the right data, you're asking the right questions, and you have the proper stakeholders, and the design phase before you write that first line of ML code. At the design phase, I think these are critical questions that need to be asked. Speaking of complexity, our annual research that we do at my company shows that last year a person on average connected with a brand across, on average, 10 different channels. If you add this year, 10 of the 12 months, the number one popular app was TikTok last year, as an example. Like, these channels sometimes are born within the year of the study. So when we talk about text messaging, social with voice and video streams embedded, so all that unstructured, and then the structured normal channels, web and app, and so on and so forth. How do you manage data integrity and this omni-channel world that we live when you're training and building ML models?
No, that's a super important question. And also, as you said, right, TikTok was super popular last year, and now probably it's a Clubhouse. Everything just changed so fast.
Right.
Yeah.
What is that Clubhouse thing? I don't know, Vala. What do you think?
I don't know. I've got over 200 followers and I've done nothing on it, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
This is privacy.
Yeah.
So.
I have no idea. Actually, I think Vala, you hit a great point there. Like, managing data from multiple sources, multi-channel is super critical. The reason is there's few reasons there. One is really like for the AI, right? Like AI, we all know AI needs data, high quality data, at large volume, better AI. But how to manage that data? That's actually a pretty challenging problem. There's a few things people are not really thinking a lot there. Like, when you look at the data, sometimes you have to understand like where the data is from, who has made changes, how can you track those changes. because without understanding those, then maybe the data will change in the future. You don't really know your model is broken, right? So that can be one. The other part is also when you build the AI model, you train the model, the data is available. But when you launch the model in the future, if the data is no longer accessible, then you are in disaster. And also yeah, you can go on and on right there. And also there's another trend in the recent years. It's very interesting too. It's also people are not really using one single source for data. Now people are using multiple model data. Let's say when we look at self-driving car, they are using data from the camera, using data from LiDAR, try to do this data sensor fusion and using multiple data and get better performance. When people are trying to detect the content from a video, they're not only using like video data, but also voice data, right? When you combine those data, it gives you much better performance. So that's kind of the trend from the tech side. People are leveraging multiple sources of data, but meanwhile, I think there's more and more effort put in the ML ops side to help people to manage the data pipeline, manage the data versioning, and make sure they can really always get high quality data there.
That's amazing.
What I can't figure out is why is computer vision easier than NLP? Like of all possible things, like you'd think computer vision would be like 10 times harder than NLP. And it's just amazing that works out that way. But hey, we're not here to talk about that. We've got to talk about your book. You've got a brand new book next month titled Real World AI. Tell us a little bit about what it is and what's the focus on that book.
Well, thanks for asking. I'm really excited about the new book. It's coming next month.
Woohoo.
Yeah. So real world AI, this is based on our own experience of working on AI applications in last decades, both those successful ones and the failed ones. We also shared a lot of stories and examples from other companies and experts, also both the successful and the failed ones. It will walk the readers through the whole journey to build AI, from how to pick up the right problem to scale it to production, from defining an AI strategy to form a right team, from get the right data to decide if you want to buy or build the AI by yourself. It gives the reader a very practical guide to build a responsible AI. So the reason we really want to write this book is there's two reasons, right? On the one side, we see a lot for companies that are struggling to really deploy AI successfully. And a similar mistake was made again and again and again. On the other hand, if you look at all the books we have today, it either like super technical, tell you how to train a convolutional neural network, or maybe build a chatbot, or like super high level, talk about the strategy people need to adopt AI.
So we're getting out of the theoretical stuff and saying, here's kind of the how-to to make AI work, get the right data in place, put in the right controls, and make everything happen, and do it all right away.
That's exactly the point of this book. We hope that book can give you some tips to do that.
All right, we're talking a real-world AI expert, Wilson Pang, Chief Technology Officer at Appen. You can follow the company's Twitter handle at Appen Global. Check out the new book. I'm sure it's available somewhere. Amazon, is that correct? You can find that, Real World AI? So
yes, it's available.
Real World AI, and check out the book and jump in there. So thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you, Wilson.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, what a great space to be in. I mean, a CTO of an AI company,
That's like the smartest of the smartest. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I can tell he's enjoying what he's doing. And speaking of someone who just brings joy to everyone who meets and knows her, this is our cleanup hitter spot, as Paul Daugherty said. So we expect someone to come in and hit a grand slam, and surely this will be the case. Deborah Mills-Scofield, strategic and innovation expert and advisor, a venture capitalist, a mentor, and speaker. Deb is passionate about helping companies and individuals see what's possible and make plans to achieve it. Deb helped create Brown University's cognitive science concentration and finished it in 3 years. Early in her career at Bell, she created one of AT&T's highest revenue generating patents. So I forgot to put inventor in her bio. Deb's articles in Harvard Business Review, which by the way, this is how we met. I read one of her articles. I sent a tweet. Next thing I know, I met one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. Power of Twitter and writing, by the way. She has her own blog, contributes to various business books, all of it geared towards inspiring people to dream that they can achieve. And she gives them the tools and the mindset for them to make it happen. She's a partner at an early stage venture capital firm Glengarry LLC. Today, Deb fosters innovation growth and others through her strategy and innovation consulting with mid to large size privately held companies with her students. And we're going to learn about students, the power of reverse mentoring and how it can bring joy and inspiration to you. She's an awesome follow on Twitter, daily inspirations with poster cards to tell you how to be a better person. Follow her at DSCOFIELD, DS Schofield. Welcome back, Deb, to DisrupTV.
Thank you for having me, you guys.
We're super excited to have you.
I feel like I should be bronzed.
It's the perfect time to have you, right? I mean, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. We've had some experiences with what's been going on over the last 9 months. And now we have an opportunity to think about what we can do differently. And so want to know, what are leaders doing differently? What have you seen changes in terms of leadership styles and how people have actually, changed their outlook and perceptions, what people's expectations are? And I think they're all starting to form a new type of approach as we head out into the next couple months.
So what I've seen mainly with my clients is, number one, increased communication. So, like in real estate, it's location. Here it's communication. So I'm seeing that a lot. Going from tolerating work from home to embracing it to hybrid, and speeding up digital transformation, like immediate. So that's what I've seen, and a mind shift toward really focusing on human and system design. So rather than I create a discrete product or this, but really focusing on human-centered design and systems design. That's about it.
You are a new business model generation expert. So when you're coaching your clients, it's more than just modernizing legacy processes, leveraging technology. The real way to unleash their full potential is finding new revenue streams with new business model opportunities. Have you found that the pandemic was an accelerator for people to think beyond just, the cloud's going to help me do things faster, or mobile is going to allow me to work from anywhere, and really think about how do I gain, not gain market share, but be a market maker, as our good friend Saul Kaplan would remind us. Right. What business model innovation is all about. It's not market share taking, it's about market making.
Grow the pie.
No, totally seen that. And what I really try to get them to do is go back to value proposition. Who are you targeting? And what are their pains? What are their gains? Because if you don't get that right, you don't need to worry about a business model. And it's got to be from the other perspective. So that's been a real focus. And every single client, we've looked at new business models, new value props, because the world just changed, by 10 years in 9 months or whatever.
No, true. We had last week, we had Scott D. Anthony, who was Clay Christensen's business partner for 20 years, started as a student of his, but, became a business partner at Insight. And he said, jobs to be done. Like, you need to understand,
so
like
simple.
You just said. I know, it's the milkshake story from Clay Christensen, late Clay Christensen. But when you say their pain points, and it's amazing how companies still struggle with understanding what success looks like from their customers' point of view. And by the way, as a VC, I'm sure you scrutinize the teams that are pitching to you, whether they have the acumen to understand the changing world, but also understand jobs to be done.
And it's acumen, but it's also more so desire, right?
Culture.
Because, this is how I think Kant's divine ought, it ought to be done. Yeah. What does the customer need from their perspective in their world with their constraints, not what you want it to be? And if you're going to get hooked up on that, forget it. It's very much I, thou. It's about the other, not you.
Great. Great advice.
It's a great point, right? And we got a little comment here. I don't know what this means. Permaquid Seafood, great snack place.
Oh, yes.
I figured, Bob, somewhere.
Oh, Permaquid Seafood.
Yep.
It's the blue lobster in the back. Yeah.
Several nights a week. Yeah.
So, but hey, let's think about you. I mean, like, way you're interacting with clients, the way you're talking to them, how that changes in terms of communications. I mean, do you miss the physical meeting, like the random conversation that happens as you're in the hallway, right? Or is this going to be adequate enough going forward?
It's not, and I do miss it. And it's funny. One of my clients, I've had them for 15 years. This was how I really had to adapt. We all did. So last May, we went from a 4-day offsite retreat to 8 2.5-hour Zoom calls over 8 weeks.
Wow.
Wow.
Ended up with an amazingly integrated, cool, tight, forward-looking plan. I mean, we thought we were doing 18 months. We did 5. And we all ended thinking, oh, well, next year, no problem. We can do our normal retreat. No, we can't.
Someone tried that with 500 people and got in trouble. I heard,
Oh, a biotech company.
a vaccine manufacturer.
Yeah. So it has changed that. I do miss that. But on the other hand, there's a lot more casual, like, just, can you chat? And so there's more spontaneous chat with my clients than I would have had under the old world. And it's also made us have to be much more thoughtful about what we're doing at those sessions. There's a lot more pre-read, pre-work. And I actually like it in the sense of you got to be dedicated on doing your plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get away with it now. You're either in or you're out, because I'm not reminding you.
Yeah.
So
and you work with some, you work with digital native companies like Airbnb as a client. You work with some technology leaders for the past 3 decades, like Cisco. So some of these folks, obviously, I'm sure are, they get the Zoom, they get the social, they get the text. They're tech companies and they're digital natives. Are all your clients, adapt to this environment? And by the way, we've had other VCs on the show, and universally they've said it is harder to do this remotely because our senses, the way we read the room, the way we, follow the mannerisms, you can learn a lot from what's unsaid and how a person behaves in a room, and that's just not quite there, in this decentralized digital-only model. So you're not the first to say that it's harder, but I suspect clients are now getting used to it, and it may be the new normal. You're not going to hop on a plane for a 2-hour meeting.
No, you're not going to hop on a plane. And it's funny, from a VC, what?
Ray's going to do that.
I'm still going to do that.
Yeah, good for you.
1 million miles a year. Can't wait to go back. Yeah.
Have I got a face shield for you? But on the VC side, it is a little harder. On the client side, one thing I do like is it is harder for one of the people in the room to just kind of go like this and make their notes, where in a real world, it would be easier to do that. And I'm the one that has to call them out. But when you're all on a Zoom screen, everybody sees it. So it's harder to hide. That said, on the VC side, I do concur with that. But it's raised accountability quite a bit, which has been good.
Sure.
I was sitting in Madera, the Rosewood Sandhill yesterday, and I got to tell you, it was just incredible. I hadn't had a chance to see people in a while. So we're having lunch outside. Someone else bumped in, hadn't seen someone there, talked to another conversation. Like, I could have stayed there for 4 hours. I mean, that craving of human interaction, the serendipity of someone popping in, I saw.
From Clubhouse. I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like it was from one room to another.
I got to ask you guys about, one of my students invited me to Clubhouse. Oh, Dad, you're going to. And I'm just like, I'd rather read a book.
Ray, Deb, you would crush it on Clubhouse because you have a nice, soothing voice.
I'll put him to sleep.
Remarkable mastery of the language. You just, but no, but seriously, okay, you mentioned student. Okay, so, and I know you have officially mentored hundreds of students, maybe thousands. And okay, so I'm a junior at Brown. And so I got one more year before I joined the workforce. What advice would you give me from getting me ready from this world that did accelerate by 10 years, was massively impacted by the pandemic? We still have climate, we still have racial, we still have economic, we still have health, we still have trust deficit. It's gotten better, I think, but we still have a trust deficit. So what do you tell a junior who is ready to put a dent in the universe because she just read a Steve Jobs autobiography and might be shocked to realize that things may be a little bit different?
So in a weird way, and this is a bubble, and I know we're extremely privileged.
Yes,
what I've seen it with students is a bigger sense of urgency to make a difference. And so, some want to make their 10 million by the time they're 25. Some want to solve world hunger and poverty by the time they're 25.
Wow.
So it varies.
Is this because it's a Brown University example? Because I know you have very close tie to not only the Brown students, but executive leadership at Brown are mentees of yours. So it's an entire university spectrum.
Yeah, they're not as fun as the students. And in fact, I'm going to be a mentor to a design engineering grad program we're doing with RISD. And they're not all going to be Brown undergrads. So it's going to be work. And I'm just putting it, I'm a whatever with this. So most of a junior probably would have had an internships by now. And what I really try to focus on with them is to understand who they are, who they want to be, who they don't want to be. That your core values you can set. Everything else is kind of up for grabs. It's like, you got your Lego set. There are a few blocks that aren't coming apart, but otherwise everything else can get added and taken off. So you can continually redesign. So what do you want to think about learning, experience doing in the next 3 to 5 years? And what are the best places, companies, institutions, whatever, to go do that?
That's
and amazingly, it's hard to say this in a way, none of my kids, my students, have lost jobs or internships or opportunities during this.
Wow.
That's
amazing. That's amazing.
It's a privilege.
It is a privilege. It is a privilege. But I have to tell you, I didn't have a discussion when I was at undergrad or grad, or maybe the first 5 years of working, in terms of the importance of core values and understanding what brings you joy, and understanding success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking the way you do it. I think these were learnings in my probably 30s, not 20s.
Oh my gosh, these kids think about things we never thought about.
Wow.
And I learn, like all this discussion from the previous two on AI. So one of my kids does a lot with reinforced learning and robotics. And some of the issues that they're dealing with in AI and on robotics and all this stuff are not different than 30 plus, I'll say, years ago when we created CogSci instead of doing AI. And it was that if you do AI, it's task-based. CogSci is neurocog-based. And there's still that division in AI.
Well, remember, AI was a dirty word back then, so.
Hey, I programmed in Lisp. Which nobody knows now.
That's funny. I still remember taking Fortran and COBOL classes, but I don't want to mention that because with my short hair, people might think I'm younger than I really am.
Well, at least I started out with C. I never learned Fortran and COBOL. And I'm older than you.
Hey, you were creating multi-billion-dollar patents at Dell, so you were in a different group. I was in the basement, and you were.
But I got a plaque for that.
That's
Wow. Hey, actually, you know what? Talking about Dell, like, what was Michael Backlund like? You know?
Oh no, Bell.
Bell
Bell.
Labs.
Okay, I was like, that doesn't make sense. All right, so you were like Bell Labs back in the corporate research R&D world.
Oh.
So, do you
I
think
didn't
we need
appreciate that.
Do we think we need again, like corporate research and corporate research development? It feels like every company's gotten rid of that. So,
Well, but even if they haven't, like Google X is not what Bell Labs was. It's still more corporately driven. It's not as egalitarian. You know, I could sit on the floor of Cheswick and Belvin, who wrote security for the internet. And I would sit on the floor in their rooms, in their offices.
Wow.
It was, I never experienced any kind of chauvinism or harassment or anything. It was a different world.
So we've gone backwards.
Oh, totally.
oh my God, yeah. I mean, getting Bill Cheswick.
That's a whole other show we got to talk about.
We gotta get him back, man. I mean, he was I remember him. He was like Lehigh University dude. So that's crazy. Well, I grew up in Allentown, so that's why.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. That's why I'm like.
Well, I grew up in Joyzy, so.
Joyzy. So
But
that's amazing.
Any is there a book coming up or working on blogs? What's your next 12 months going to look like?
You know, everybody's like, write a book.
Yeah, I've been telling you that for 5 years.
I know. And Alex Osterwald like tweeted it out 5 years ago. Deb's writing a book.
It's hard.
I don't know. You know, I love working with my clients, seeing them grow and hire more people and make money and pay taxes. And my students, and I don't have a desire to write a book.
Yeah.
You know,
you have so many great stories, but you know what? Your clients are benefiting from it. And
to me, so much seems so obvious. Like, you really have to say this stuff? Like jobs to be done?
You actually do.
That is still, I'm telling you, I'm in front of enough clients to know the jobs to be done reminder is a really important one still.
It's a great reminder. Look, here's the thing. I would say find two of your students to interview you and have them write the book, and it'll be really fun. And what will occur is like they'll think of the questions, they'll put it together, they'll get the book, and then you just edit the manuscript. And I think that'll be like one of the most awesome books. I mean, to get that knowledge imparted and filtered through the lens of someone a little bit younger, and then filtered through the lens of people who are thinking differently, and then filtered again through peers, you're going to get some very interesting conversations.
Well, they have been keeping notes, and they want to do FAQs. And I have kids who next semester want to create a Deb bot. So if they can't get a hold of me,
there is a way to replace us. There is a way to replace us here.
We will always have the original Deb and not the Deb bot on DisrupTV. We can promise you that.
But in case they need me and I can't get a hold of, give a Deb bot.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, it's always great speaking with you. Always
Thank
great.
You, and you too.
Deb Mills-Scofield, strategic and innovation consulting, venture capitalist, mentor, and advisor, innovation expert. You can find her at Mills-Scofield LLC and on Twitter at @DScofield, SCOFIELD, for some interesting tweets and, of course, a blue lobster.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks a lot for being on the show. Happy Friday.
Grand Slam, I told you. We bring the slugger at the end. And wow, so that was episode 224, our 685th interview after 5 years. Next week will be episode 225. And we will have Nigel Vaz, CEO of Publicis Sapient.
He just wrote a book.
Pretty interesting. CEO of User Testing, absolutely. And again, one of my favorite guests, Larry Dignan, editor-in-chief of ZDNet. Larry is unfiltered, one of the smartest news tech media personalities that we know. So he's always A game. So definitely don't miss next week.
And probably not allowed on Clubhouse.
No. Although I don't know. Again, he's such a great mind and he speaks the truth. And sometimes, it's it feels like it's unfiltered, but it's absolutely the truth. So he's a great guest. Great guest.
Oh, awesome guest. Awesome guest. So, well, okay. Well, hey, we're happy Friday. Welcome everybody. I don't know. Are we still doing our Clubhouse thing? Like maybe Saturday sometime, catch up with fans and stuff.
At some point we thought we would share our podcast lessons learned, mistakes made. And yeah, at some point Ray and I are going to jump on.
Yeah, we'll jump on
and do that. So,
we'll probably announce that. Look for it on Twitter if we decide when I'll be, probably in the next couple of weeks. We thought it'd be fun. We're still building up some fun audiences and people in Clubhouse. If you want to come guest host with us, DM us, let us know about that, and we'll kind of put that together. So, all right. That's it, man. Happy Friday. Hope everyone stays safe. And if it's Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, it's Disrupt TV. Thank you, everybody.
See you, everybody. Bye.